Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a literal collision of time. Imagine, if you will, taking the ancient spirit of Greece, injecting it right into 20th century modernism, and then carving it out of solid, unyielding mountains. It's a process that is just as physically grueling as it is absolutely beautiful. That is the monumental work of Márton Váró. We're going to trace the journey of an artist who essentially operates as a human time machine, synthesizing entire eras and bringing the distant past into the modern spaces we inhabit every single day.
So, let's kick things off with a massive, almost intimidating question. Any sculptor working in the Western tradition has to confront a looming shadow. What on earth is a modern artist supposed to do with the overwhelming heritage of the Greeks? I mean, are they supposed to embrace it, reject it completely, maybe distort it, or somehow subvert it? It's a foundational dilemma for literally anyone picking up a chisel today. And how Váró answers this question, well, it defines his entire artistic identity.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, confronting the Greek heritage. Second, Transylvanian roots and modern masters. Third, the cult of the fragment. Fourth, truth to the stone. And finally, a global public legacy. Let's jump in.
Part 1. Confronting the Greek heritage, the burden of antiquity.
For a sculptor, the classical past isn't just a history lesson. It's this heavy burden of perfection that forces every single subsequent generation of artists to react to it. But Váró didn't just look at ancient art in broad, generic strokes, and he didn't really share the taste of some modernists for ancient sculpture in its more primitive phases. Instead, his great love was highly specific. He zeroed in on the developed Greek art of the mid-5th century BC. He was particularly drawn to the sculptures associated with Phidias, the legendary architect of the Parthenon. Váró produces these incredible draped female torsos and figures heavily inspired by those ancient subjects, but crucially, they're never just imitations. He is studying the absolute peak of classical perfection.
Moving right along to Part 2, Transylvanian Roots and Modern Masters, a duality of influence.
To really get why he didn't just copy the Greeks, we have to look at his incredibly unique background. It's a real duality. On one hand, you have his ancient and regional influences. Váró is of Hungarian stock, born in a frontier region of Transylvania. During his summers there, he absorbed these deep, local wood-carving craft traditions. Plus, because the whole area was once a Roman province, he grew up surrounded by abundant Roman provincial sculpture. But on the other hand, you have his modernist heroes. While coming of age as an artist fascinated by modernism under a communist government, he was looking straight at 20th century titans like Constantine Brancusi, Henry Moore, and Louise Nevelson. Brancusi, who was also Romanian-born, combined folk traditions with these highly refined forms, a spirit Váró clearly shares. So you end up with an artist whose mind is trained on the Parthenon and Roman ruins, but completely fueled by 20th century modern abstraction.
Which brings us to Part 3, the cult of the fragment, finding beauty in the broken. This precise intersection, where his seemingly opposing ancient and modern influences perfectly meet, is absolutely fascinating. Because how do you honor ancient perfection while remaining a true modernist? Well, you focus on what's broken. When Michelangelo first saw the Belvedere torso, which is this ruined, armless, headless fragment of a Greek statue, he didn't see it as ruined at all. He saw an incomplete form that possessed a genius surpassing nature itself. He literally said, "This is the work of a man who knew more than nature itself." This specific moment anchors a really deep art history context of finding absolute perfection in incomplete things.
That profound reaction from Michelangelo anchors what we call the cult of the fragment. It's this rich artistic tradition originating in the Renaissance and heavily intensified at the beginning of the 20th century by sculptors like Rodin and Mayol. And Váró treats this idea in a pretty radical way. If you look at the Parthenon marbles in the British Museum, sure, you see complete slabs, but you also see these shattered fragments where the original design is just lost to time. Váró takes direct hints from those shattered slabs. He crafts draped female torsos and abstract reliefs that totally embrace this fragmentation. He isn't trying to magically restore the past. He's finding profound modern aesthetic value right there in its brokenness.
Part 4, truth to the stone, freeing the figure.
Now, all this intellectual philosophy, it means absolutely nothing without the intense, tactile reality of the medium itself. Just picture the sheer scale for a second. You have a single human being dwarfed by massive, raw blocks of stone in a Carrara marble quarry over in Italy, which is where Váró spends his summers working. One of the greatest pleasures of looking at Váró's work is witnessing the incredible skill with which he handles these utterly intractable, stubborn substances. I mean, the man is literally tackling mountains.
And unlike those 19th century artisans who would just copy clay models into stone, making the material look sort of bland and slippery, Váró forces the stone to retain its raw, fundamental stoniness. He completely avoids that polished blandness. In his work, you'll see some blocks that are intricately carved, while others right next to them are left completely unadorned. This contrast serves as a brilliant, constant reminder to the viewer of the raw, natural essence of the earth itself.
And that technique serves a deeply historical purpose too, freeing the figure rather than creating it. Once again, Varó's channeling Michelangelo here, who famously originated the idea that the figure actually already lives inside the stone block, and the sculptor's only real task is to set it free. You can see this echo perfectly in Varó's limestone piece titled Breaking Free. In it, a beautiful young woman appears to literally be in the process of stepping right out of the block that has contained her. All of these historical cross-references naturally lead us to define his era. Postmodernism isn't about striving to invent completely new artistic languages from scratch. Instead, it's the propensity to recombine elements from existing artistic languages in entirely new ways. It's kind of like assembling a giant puzzle using pieces from completely different boxes. Váró executes this recombination masterfully. He seamlessly blends ancient Greek drapery with modern abstraction. Amazingly, he even pulls in the intermittent, stuttering rhythms of Louise Nevelson, an artist whose work was actually inspired by the chaos of New York City construction. But crucially, what he leaves out is just as important. Váró entirely lacks the cynicism that informs so much postmodernist art. Instead of irony, there is just this deep reverence. Even in his non-figurative works, he maintains a sincere feeling for flesh and a deep respect for the mysteries of the female body, often choosing to depict it draped rather than nude as a symbol of that profound reverence.
Finally, Part 5. A Global Public Legacy. Modern Stone in Public Spaces. This beautiful philosophy doesn't just sit hidden away in a studio somewhere. It steps right out into the real world. Váró's global footprint is absolutely massive. Ever since his 1990 residency for a public art project in Brea, California, he's been carving sculptures for public places across the US and the entire world. We're talking from the plazas of Texas and Florida to the museums of Finland, Holland, and his native Hungary. From a university in Norway to a parliament building in Korea, and even all the way to Volos, Greece, bringing his lifelong dialogue with Greek antiquity full circle, right back to Greek soil. His ability to synthesize the ancient and the modern truly speaks a universal language.
Which leaves us with this final, really fascinating thought to ponder. As you walk through your own cities, past plazas and public buildings, ask yourself, what ancient mysteries might be hiding in the modern stone of the public spaces you walk through every single day? Are they just blocks of rock, or are there figures waiting to step out, echoing voices from thousands of years ago? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep looking closely at the world around you.